Heyo everyone and welcome. I'm your friend Art of Mana, and let's dive into a recap on the Intellivision Amico, some retro-inspired hardware that, though not announced at this year's E3 2021, did receive a substantial presentation. There's some new information, and if you've been following me in my streams, you know I've talked about this, you know I have it pre-ordered, you know I find it very intriguing and fascinating, and I really want to see where this project goes. So let's dive in and take a look at some of the things that we know about the Intellivision Amico, and then some of the things that we learned during this E3, because this is the first video I've done on the Amico. First of all, if you go to the Intellivision website, you'll see a lovely section where they talk about the original Intellivision. This company is now under the leadership of Tommy Tallarico, an industry veteran who has many, many accolades. And the original Intellivision is noteworthy for a number of reasons. It has been given many attributions of firsts, things that it's done before any other consoles, and you can read all about it on the website. This is the new Intellivision Amico, a modern console that in its base is all of the guts and the hardware. It is also a charging dock for the two controllers that you can see right there. It has LEDs all around it, RGB, so you can see it in the controller, and it's all around the rim of this almost UFO-like device. We'll talk a little bit more about what this controller is all about in just a little bit, but first of all, let's talk about the focus Intellivision has put on this particular device, and I love it. It's about simple, affordable family entertainment. I think that's a lovely way to hone in on core concepts that are worthwhile in today's modern age. Simple, I think, is really important because we are in an era where games have gotten a little more complicated. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't mean in a grand sense that it's just continually gotten more and more obtuse to the point where no one can enter into the world of gaming and have fun. No. I think that's definitely an oversimplification. But there are sort of waves, and if you think about the Wii, when the Wii came out, it introduced simple, easy-to-pick-up gaming that anyone, whether they were playing their very first video game or whether they were a veteran, could pick up and instantly understand. But now Nintendo has a whole new group of gamers that are alongside them in buying new hardware, and the Nintendo Switch, well, it goes a bit further and it adds some other levels of complexity that, though I think is absolutely warranted and is very, very interesting and wonderful for the gaming experience, certainly means that picking up the Switch isn't as intuitive as the Wii was. And so simple is nice to see back, okay? Families, young kids, and older grandparents can all hopefully be able to play this console. That's the hope, right? Affordability is also important. Now, I think while Intellivision here talks specifically about price points and points out that video games on this platform are going to be $10 digitally or $20 physically and capped at that, I think there's another type of affordability I want to talk about, not just monetarily, but the affordability of our time. Right now, a lot of games demand that we invest so much time and energy and effort into them to play them to completion. And it can actually be really difficult to do so. If you are a working parent, then you know there's not as much time to play video games. I love the idea that the games for this platform are going to be simple, pick up and play games, arcade-like, something where you don't need to invest hours and hours to play through, but something that you can just enjoy in your free time. And then, of course, that family entertainment, making these games appropriate for all of your children so that you don't need to fear that your toddler is going to walk in and see something scary, right? The controller itself is really rather fun and unique. It is based around a 64-direction pad that actually can, I believe, act as a dial as well as a directional pad. There's also a touch capacitive screen, much like a modern cell phone, and there are buttons all along the side of it. It also has a gyroscope, so it's very Wii Remote-esque in some ways, but it does its own thing, and it's a lot of fun, I think. There's also a really great shot here of those beautiful RBG lights, and yeah, they're cool. I can't wait to see their implementation in the game. And it's nice that you can charge your controllers right there on the top of the system. There's also a really nice feature, which is that you can download an app and then have up to 8 players playing in your game without needing multiple controllers. 2 come with the system, but if you have a group coming over and you don't want to shell out for extra controllers, everyone can download the Intellivision app and just play. This is really cool. But this E3, we also learned something that I think is absolutely game-changing. And that is, as I mentioned, this is mostly going to be a digital platform. You can buy physical games, but I think that's designed really for those collectors out there. A lot of families, I think, are going to opt for the digital download service. And when you download those games, as you know, on your system is a large collection of games that you can't do anything with. You can't take them anywhere. So they've come up with a very elegant solution, and that is that if you take your controller over to your friend's house who has an Amico, then you can actually pair your controller to their Amico, and your entire game collection is accessible on that Amico while it is paired. This is such a fantastic way to do it that I hope it becomes a gold standard for digital games in the future. It's so user-friendly and absolutely needed right now that if there was no other announcement for the Amico during this E3, this is the one that just made me so happy. And I think it's worth other companies taking note. Speaking of other companies, let's take a moment and talk a little bit about what I see as some connections with other companies, specifically Nintendo and the Ouya, which I don't want people to get the wrong impression. The Ouya certainly is seen as a failed console, very sadly. I still have mine and enjoy it, by the way. But I think there are some really positive ideas that the Ouya touted that you can see in the Amico. And I definitely think that the Amico is riffing off of the Wii era idea of the blue ocean gamer and the simple to pick up and play aspects of the Wii. Let me just say this. I don't think this is a revolutionary console. It's not something that is just a copycat either. Kind of like a good pop song. The melody, the chords, the instrumentation might have commonality, but it's the way that it's all put together in its own unique way that makes it really what it is and makes it shine. And I think that with the focus of Tommy Tallarico and the team, the Intellivision Amico is really set up to be a great little pop song, something that's worth playing and something that's worth getting. We'll see if that holds true. But the thing that I'm a little worried about, still to this day, is have they marketed it correctly and enough? Now, obviously, the team is very small, and by the way, they're actually putting together their first wave of units going out to developers by hand because they've faced so many challenges this year due to COVID-19. So I want to give them a lot of grace in that sense. But here's the thing. When they first started talking about this, they targeted the retro enthusiasts community on places like YouTube and Reddit. And I think that's pretty good because, I mean, there are going to be a lot of us who are really interested just by the name alone Intellivision or by Tommy Tallarico. But is that necessarily the audience? And I think, sadly, we've seen a lot of different YouTubers be overly critical of this platform and some that also just kind of universally praise it without really being critical of it. I hope I'm somewhere in between. I'm watching it, and I want to say I see a lot of positive things. I want to be mostly positive here. I'm really hopeful for the project, but I also don't want to just sort of sugarcoat everything, and I'm going to share a few things as we go on, like I am right now, that where I don't think the marketing is hitting it. I don't think they're quite hitting their mark, right? So marketing is one area. I would say that for over a year now, I've been wondering when are they going to start using the Wii era advertising strategy of showing use cases, showing games being played by families and older relatives, etc., where people just dive into a game and have fun. And then, with the Ouya, they talked about really bringing a lot of indie developers to a platform that was unique, easy to develop for, and where games were very affordable, where you could try and play so many different games and have unique experiences. These are both strategies I think that the Amico could hone in on for future advertising. This is a device for great new ideas in gaming and easy to pick up and play and intuitive games. That's what I think they need to do, and they need to show use cases. Well, the first part of the E3 presentation was not that. It was not. It was actually talking about Tommy Tallarico's accolades. Now, Tommy Tallarico, as I said, seems like a cool guy, right? He's been hanging out with people. He's doing the circuits. He's doing podcasts, and he's shown us his game room and his large collection of video games, and he's clearly passionate about this project. But I think for a lot of people who just are looking at what is this console, this isn't going to be useful information. And for many who are already familiar with it and want to see some new things, or who are just interested in what Tommy has to say, they already know who he is. Okay, so I didn't think that was worth as much time as was spent on the E3 presentation. Though, of course, hey, like, he's got the accolades. He's a pretty cool guy. He's done a lot of neat stuff. But thankfully, that was not it, because soon after, we finally got to see what I had been hoping for so long, and that is video use cases of families playing the Intellivision Amico. This is what we needed. We needed to see this picture. We needed to see this picture. Look, grandparents with their grandchildren. This is where you're going to see maybe a Christmas gift, right? Grandma's going to want to get little Timmy that Intellivision Amico. And this is what I was hoping for so long. So this got me very excited. The other thing that I thought was great is that they did zoom in on that gameplay, and you could see the controller at work with the game behind it. And I wanted to see more of this, in fact, because, again, this is where you get to get excited about the new ideas, okay? They showed that, and they did a pretty good job. I think they actually did quite an admirable job. But I mean, maybe they could have done a bit more of it. They did also show, and I thought this was great, some of their team playing the Intellivision Amico. And if you watched any of their live streams or other YouTube content, you've probably seen some of these faces before. But these are some of the people behind the Intellivision product, and you can see them having fun, and I thought that was a nice touch. And then they dove into some of the games. Now, this is where I am a little nervous for the Intellivision Amico, okay? I'm really interested in it. I'm interested in the pick up and play aspect of it, but there's no denying that some of these games look a little bit rough around the edges. Some of them look a little bit unpolished, and that's probably to be expected. Again, leaning into that indie development aspect might help with this. But the other thing is, these are these are three examples of retro reimagined, where Intellivision and Atari games are being updated with a fresh coat of paint and some new modern quality of life aspects. And for many people, that's going to be enough. And for some, it might not be enough. So thankfully, we saw a few other neat games as well, including this one, which I guess you could say is a retro reimagined game, but it's not quite so bare bones as some of the old Intellivision and Atari games. This is more like a 16-bit modern or 16-bit retro game reimagined. This is actually an announcement where the Echo the Dolphin team is at work for a spiritual successor, and I really am excited about this because it's such a gem, Echo the Dolphin. It's such a weird, quirky game. It's so great that we're getting a new game, albeit via spiritual successor in that franchise. We're also getting a new Earthworm Jim, and this is actually the licensed Earthworm Jim. And as you can see here, Tommy Tallarico is actually holding up some signed prints that you can learn, that you could win by simply watching the video. And I won't give it away here, but there's a way to enter that the video talks about. So if you're interested in that, you can go ahead and follow that. It is sad that we didn't see any Earthworm Jim footage, so I'm hoping that's going to be a really polished game. That would be a great one for the team to really, really tout, and that could be a system seller, if you ask me. So we'll see how that all pans out. Now, I do want to just talk about a few of the other games here. This is one of them because this one stood out to me as a very polished game. This is what gives me hope for the console. I don't know what this game is, but I love the beautiful CRT filter on it, the painterly backgrounds, the very, very polished looking animations, and the planes, the special effects. This is what I'm hoping the Amico is going to look like in general. This is just fantastic, if you ask me. And this is another game which, I'm very excited for platformers. I love platformers. I'm hoping for more platformers because it is a genre which I just think we need more of. They're so great. This is a game that doesn't necessarily look bad, but I do want to be a little critical of it and say it definitely doesn't look like a big budget platform. It kind of has that Flash game from about 10 years ago look, right? And that's not necessarily me trying to put this game down. It looks like it's not a bad game. It could be very fun, and it's still being worked on, and it is in development. But I think we need to lower our expectations for this console because they're not setting out to wow us with visuals. And in fact, many of the 3D visuals that were shown off look a little rough. Shadows are a little wonky, and 3D models are a little bit low resolution. The textures are a little bit low resolution, low poly. That's just kind of what I think this hardware is going to be capable of. But that's not the focus, right? So I would like to see them do the best they can with the hardware, but I don't think we've seen many examples of really polished games just yet. It is worth noting that many of these games do look a little bit better, well, in their, animated stage, right? That's how we're going to be interacting with the games. Look at this. This looks a little bit better, if you ask me, in movement. And obviously, this game looks gorgeous. But as you can see, it's a little hit or miss in terms of what the games look like. Some of them are pretty impressive. Some of them look like they're just starting development right now, and I hope that maybe they'll get more polished as we go along. I don't know. But long story short, the Intellivision Amico seems like they're a passionate group of people trying to put out a console with a very fantastic focus. And if it can get its footing, I have a lot of hope that we're going to see some great games come out for it. And then I think we're actually going to see a wonderful resurgence of the blue ocean ideal that hasn't really been around since the Wii. And that's going on quite some years now at this point. So I wish Tommy and team all the best. I really do hope this project absolutely succeeds. And until we know for sure, I just am going to invite you to keep your eyes peeled for all kinds of information about the Intellivision Amico. And please let me know what you think, again, in the comments below. Do good, be well, stay safe and healthy, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.